Hey everybody, it's your old pal Robert from thrillride.com. How you doing? So I'm back in Griffith Park, another absolutely gorgeous day, and I'm right across the street from the LA Zoo, which I've been to a couple of times, but today I'm going to visit the Autry Museum in the American West. Here's a museum celebrating its 35th anniversary. I've never been. And of course the museum was started by Gene Autry, famous as the singing cowboy, Hollywood legend from back in the day. I think between, I don't know, in the 19 or 20 years he made feature films. He made 93 of them, had his own TV show in the early 50s for a while. Kind of a legend in the cowboy community. But he started the museum to celebrate the history and culture of the American West. And I'm happy to say that the museum is actively participating and partnering with local Native American tribes and cultures to make sure all of that history and culture is accurately represented. But you know, I love museums, and it's a pretty inexpensive one, so really excited to see what it has to offer. So let's go inside and take a look around. Okay, so this sculpture I could have walked right by. I just assumed it was kind of a random moment of, you know, cowboy history, but it depicts the Pony Express. Now, this is something I did not know about the Pony Express until right now. Ultra-fast but short-lived mail service that ran between the East and the West from only 1860 to 1861. I had no idea it was that short. It was a 1,900-mile route that started in Missouri and passed through Wyoming and Utah before reaching its destination in Sacramento. Riders exchanged horses at more than 180 stations during the journey, which took between 9 and 10 days, and for which they were paid around $25 a week, compared to the going rate of $1 a week for skilled labor. But this isn't just the Pony Express. This is a moment when a rider was carrying Abraham Lincoln's inaugural address from a telegraph station in Nebraska to newspapers in California in the record time of 7 days and 17 hours. Unbelievable. So yeah, the Pony Express only lasted 18 months. How do you like that? Yeah, I love this beautiful facade. And walking into the courtyard, I think right there is a statue of the person for whom this museum is named. And there is the bronze statue that commemorates the singing cowboy himself. And the inscription there at the base reads, "Back in the saddle again." I guess if that is his song, that's a fact I did not know. Yeah, I'm not a huge country western music listener, so I'm very unfamiliar with the history, but again, I certainly know Gene Autry's name, and if that is again one of his signature tunes, well, that's impressive. You can see in the back some of the detail carved into the leather of the saddle in the sculpture. Yeah, very elegant and befitting of a singing cowboy. And it looks like there are dedicated pavers that one can purchase to help support the Autry Museum. And speaking of famous cowboys, well, there's a name I think we all recognize. Yeah. I'm pretty stoked that they have a film series here. And again, not a giant watcher of westerns, but Westworld, oh yeah, one of my favorite movies of any genre of all time. So great. And I will say, I watched the first season of the HBO series, which was spectacular, so good, and a true sequel to the film, and then started the second season and just couldn't get into it. What a shame. But man, that first season, glorious. Well, here on a plaque outside the main entrance, the original name of the museum, the Gene Autry Western Heritage Museum, November 22, 1988. Yeah. So yeah, this was not here when I was growing up as a little kid. but certainly in the intervening years. And look at this, Walt Disney Imagineering exhibit design, right on. Well, I can already see the architecture is really lovely. Very nice big open atrium where you get your tickets. And right here is a little exhibit called Grounded, Contemporary Ceramics. As an artistic medium, ceramic, clay that has been hardened by heat, is grounded in centuries of tradition and cultural practices. Oh, wow. Oh, look at the incredible detail in some of these small pieces. That's beautiful. So those blue pieces up there are called 16 Nights, and created by Pancho Jimenez, with geometric arrangement, rectangular forms, and deep turquoise glaze. 16 Nights evokes the architectural ruins of ancient Mexico. Yeah, those are gorgeous. And this is the Whitman family overlook. Oh. Yeah, seems to be a Native American figure across the way, and we can look down into some of the gallery spaces here. Really cool. Yeah. Boy, it is a very quiet morning here this morning. It's quite nice. Yeah, there is a ton to see here. I'm just gonna kind of follow along and see where it all takes me. Look at this. Cowboy boots are not subtle. Each step is a testament to history, beauty, and form coming together to express individual style. Oh, that's great. Oh man. Yeah, the boots up there with the rose motif. Oh, look at that. The red, the steer head on there. Ooh, and I love these. Look at that. Kind of a Thunderbird look. Yeah. Yep, cowboy boots are definitely a way to express your personal style. And in the world of singing cowboys, etc., yeah, this kind of style was pretty important. The cowboy boot, as with many Western fashions, started as workwear. The first cowboy boots were made to order in the 1870s. Wow. The story of China Poblana. Clothing is a part of imagining communities and celebrating tradition. Often our choice of what to wear is highly individualistic, but sometimes fashion is also used to show membership in a community and express our traditions and cultural identity. In this gallery, we explore the imaginative power of the Mexican and Mexican-American dress style known as China Poblana. The name China, female servant, and Poblana, of Puebla, reflects the outfit's origins in a mix of legends of Mexico's indigenous and colonial history of enslavement and nation building. So here's a classic example of a China Poblana outfit. Ensemble displayed here includes many of the elements that were becoming codified into a national costume. Hand-embroidered blouse, a full skirt adorned with sequins, and the images and colors of the Mexican nation, and a rebozo, a long, narrow, fringed shawl. All right. China Poblana appeared in ranchera films and tourist advertisements, and is a national symbol and stereotype of a romanticized rural life. So this lavish sequin-covered dress at the right was made for a, I'm not going to get this name pronounced right, quinceañera? But yeah, that is that's quite the design. And this orange skirt on this one here in the middle was hand-painted. After the revolution, Mexican leaders and intellectuals used folk and patriotic motifs to build a sense of nationhood. In El Jarabe Tapatio, known as the Mexican hat dance, a woman dressed in a China Poblana ensemble is paired with a charo. Wow. El Jarabe Tapatio became enshrined in the 1920s as Mexico's national dance and catapulted the China Poblana into a national symbol. The China Poblana lifting her skirt to show petticoats is the idea of making fun of 19th century aristocracy and the ladies in their French fashions. That's awesome. Well, this piece is called Sacred Rain Arrow, and it was, I guess, carved in 1988, but not cast until 1991. And over here they have something called a garden overlook. Kind of a spot to relax and chill. Let's see what's in here. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is too much. Oh. Yeah, so they got a nice little secluded garden down here. Amazing. Oh, I love this. And I must say, I'm very curious about the Firearms gallery, so head downstairs. I'm not a gun person. I don't own one, never will, but I am fascinated by their history and how much that technology has impacted, you know, global history beyond just California itself. Well, there you go, Gene Autry's Melody Ranch, a place of Western spirit, companionship, stories, and music. Yeah, like Corriganville and some of the other kind of dedicated movie ranches that were built early part of the last century. It's a shame we've lost so many of them. Okay, so here's the history of the Melody Ranch. 1940, Gene Autry starts a radio show there. In November of that year, Republic Picture releases Melody Ranch, starring Gene and Jimmy Durante. And then finally, 1988, the museum here replaces or rather realizes the dream that began on Melody Ranch. Neat. So this looks like some kind of interactive hands-on space for children with all kinds of history and STEAM-related activities. And there's a little student art exhibit here, Visions of Solidarity. There we go. Right on. We are stronger together. Absolutely. So here in the Bank of America Gallery is an exhibit called Human Nature. And I'm guessing this is an examination of how we interact with our natural environment. Yeah.
How they move through plant life, how we hunt and fish, how we gather our plants, all of that encompasses tag.
Well, this is made by Native people from across California. These objects are evidence of the extraordinary diversity of environments, native cultures, and natural materials in the state. Objects in this case and throughout the gallery are mainly from the Autry Southwest Museum of the American Indian Collection, and many on display for the first time. Wow. I love the beaded jewelry and that carved, I'm assuming it's some kind of a bone, perhaps? Yeah, some very cool, intricate detail here, and tucked into some of the more traditional items, this strawberry or watermelon sneaker. Okay, this is great. We can figure out what all this means by selecting. Oh, it is a sculpture. Autry Museum acquired the estate of world-renowned California Indian artist Harry Fonseca. Used his drawings, prints, and paintings to both express his love of Maidu culture and share his experiences as a traditional dancer and active community member. This painted Converse sneaker was selected as part of our continuing highlighting of Northern California contemporary art. Well, here's something I was not aware of. In all of North America, California has always been home to the largest number of different native people and their cultures. That's sweet. Of course, physically we have the advantage. It's a big state, but yeah, look at all that. Oh my goodness, that's impressive. Yeah, there we go. And in the local region, the Tongva peoples. This particular exhibit is reminding me a little bit of the art installation I saw a few months back, A Forest for the Trees, all about how to, properly manage our landscapes and how Native American cultures, basically figured out how to do all that thousands of years ago. And we're only now kind of rediscovering. We should be adopting more of their practices. Salmon is as essential to the Yurok people as the air they breathe. Fishing is who we are. And I gotta say, I do love me some salmon. That is some damn good fish. We are maritime people. The Channel Islands are our organs. Catalina Island is the belly button. The Channel is our heart, and the waterways are the veins that connect us. Travel ways. Pimu, Pimu, Pimu. Oh, man. I'm not quite sure what all this means, but I love the composition of this piece. Wow, the Channel Islands and their resources. Trade. Acorn, chia, pine nut, dogbane. That's another thing. When you think about these sort of elder populations and how they took to the oceans in nothing more than dugout canoes and just figured out how to cross the seas using the stars, the sun, the wind routes, fish migrations, bird migrations. It's mind-blowing. Abalone, apparently another very important fish to the local cultures, and not just for the meat, but all these different objects made from shells, etc. Look at that. What is an abalone? That's a fair question. Abalone belong to the phylum Mollusca, a group which includes clams, scallops, sea slugs, octopi, and squid. They also belong to the gastropoda class, which includes snails for having one shell. There you go. I would not want to randomly encounter that scuba diving under the seas. That's a little scary looking. And here are two outfits called regalia that also feature abalone shells. Or is it abalone? Abalone? Anyway. Oh, look at that. And incorporate some modern details as well, like the bottle caps. Oh, that's fantastic. So here's a traditional water vessel, and it is made out of something called tulle, which is a kind of plant I've never heard of. Tulle is a tall, water-loving sedge plant that grows in dense stands along freshwater wetlands, rivers, lakes, and estuaries across North America. Yeah, when I was a kid, forest fires were just generally considered bad, all of them. You tried to avoid them at any cost. And of course, that's actually not the right way to handle it. Fire is important for regulating the environments. And this is something I'd never heard. When the fire starts, the salmon come. Part of the practice of burning this mountain in September would be to help call the salmon up the river. It said that the smoke carries the prayers, but the fire answers them. That's beautiful. That's amazing. The desert is a supermarket. If you know how to survive in it, you can thrive in it. We think of the deserts as wastelands, but it's only for those who don't know. Look at that. The desert is full of life. A unique environment that supports many plants, animals, humans, and cultural traditions. Oh yeah, including agave, cactus, my favorite, coyotes, yucca, desert horned lizards, and of course, the rattlesnake. Yeah, oh man, such cool animals. Oh, that's so neat. These are Cahuilla sandals made from yucca before 1934. Here's a lovely piece called Continuum Basket Flora by Gerald Clark Jr., part of the Cahuilla peoples. And the design is inspired by historic Cahuilla baskets, but uses crushed cans in various colors to make comment on environmental and social issues that the Cahuilla people face. Yeah, and he's quite transparent about his own personal struggles with alcoholism. So I'm assuming these are beer cans. And this is what's called a cradle board, which is a traditional kind of baby basket. I love that. It's kind of got the horizontal platform for the child, and then that kind of a sunshade that comes up over the head. Neat. Yeah, see, another Native American group I've never heard of before. My ancestors, the Mountain Maidu of northeastern California, believed that the earth was a gift from the Creator, and that to neglect any part of it showed great disrespect. Maidu children were warned about fire spirits, or the Dio Lulelek, who would awaken from time to time and roam the lands in search of a dry forest that had reached its maximum fuel load. A slow crawling fire cleans the forest, breathing life into our cultural species and protecting our communities. Yeah, look at that. Deergrass, redbud, sourberry. These are all the plants that benefit from controlled fire. Fascinating. Yeah, look at how this example of a redbud branch. How the fire actually creates a healthier plant. Amazing. Yeah, there it is. The whole Smokey Bear campaign really did some damage. After government policies prohibited all burning, dead trees and other plant materials built up across California. The raging wildfires of recent times have plenty of fuel to burn. Yeah, we sadly helped create a lot of the crises we're working with right now. Well, here's an exhibit dedicated to the classic cowboy. Cowboys cared and continue to care for cattle herds, keeping an eye on their whereabouts and ensuring their health and safety. Look at that, from 1866 to 1884, cowboys helped drive over 5 million cattle north. And that is a lot of cows. So this is not any old wagon. This is a chuck wagon, a modified wagon used to carry cooking supplies. Texas cattleman Charles Goodnight, what a great name, is credited with creating the first chuck wagon in 1866 when he bolted a cupboard made of orange wood to the back of an army wagon. How do you like that? Chuck is a 19th century slang term for food. Yeah, there's that cupboard with the different drawers. Coffee, dried fruit, beans and rice, lard, sugar. Cheap canned goods known as airtights slowly made their way into chuck wagons during the latter half of the 19th century. Kind of makes sense. Got to keep all that fresh for those long rides. Biscuits. Yes, any cook worth his pay served hot sourdough biscuits with every meal. Ooh, well, that's making me hungry. Coffee, always a staple, super important. And where's the beef? On trail, cowboys rarely had access to fresh meat, and cooks relied on preserved meat, such as salt pork, for the bulk of their wagon rations. Oh, that's insane. In 1871 alone, cowboys moved 600 to 700,000 cattle north from Texas. Crews to move herds at 10 to 60 miles a day. Drivers needed roughly one man per 250 to 350 head of cattle. Well, how do you like that? You'd never hear people referred to as cowmen, but that's kind of the top dude out on the prairie there, owner of the cow herd. Cow hand, the veteran stock hand who was skilled in raising cattle. The wrangler was in charge of the saddle horses. Cow puncher herded the cattle. Cook, well, we know what the cook did. And the cowboy was the novice or unskilled cattle worker. Oh, there you go, the Dutch oven. One of the most important cooking tools carried on the chuck wagon was a heavy Dutch oven made of cast iron. Cowboy cooks used Dutch ovens to make hearty meals like fruit cobblers, sourdough biscuits, and baked beans. I don't know if brownies were that common back then. I can't help it, but if you're talking about cowboys and baked beans, my mind goes right to that infamous scene from Blazing Saddles. You know the one. Well, I've tried riding a horse bareback once, and believe me, it is not very pleasant. You really want a saddle. These are amazing pieces of technology. Cowboys could spend all day on horseback, so they needed saddles designed for task and comfort. They sure did. The Western stock saddle was a marriage of the Mexican saddle and American innovations. Well, that's neat. In 1874, Joseph Glidden produced the first barbed wire. Initially used by farmers to keep cattle off their land, the earliest wire, with its almost invisible strands and large barbs, was so destructive to cattle and horses it was often referred to as a vicious wire. And look at all these different barbed wire varieties. The Glidden 2 square. Okay, so that was the first and patented in 1874. The Stover Corsicana clip, the Reynolds necktie, Scott's H plate clip, the Brinkerhoff twist. That sounds like a dance. Wow. No, Brinkerhoff apparently did more than one. He also created, or she, the Martel, patented in 1885. So this really beautiful looking device, I was trying to figure out what it was on my own, but you can see it's got that crank handle. That is a rope maker. I guess you would wind fibers through those gears and then twist it, and that would weave them into rope. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. Cowboy clothing reflected the extreme climate of the northern plains. Cowboys worked outdoors year-round. Yeah, during the winter, they fed and watered the stock and maintained fence lines and other equipment. So these brands on the wall here are representations of some of the different marks created by cattle ranch owners. The Square and Compass brand was one of the first to come to Montana. The T-Heart brand was owned by William A. Cohen. The CK brand of Conrad Coors represents one of the wealthiest cattle kings. And then representing the shape of a spur, this brand was found on the Bowman and Schaefer Ranch near Knowlton, Montana. You know what I'm just realizing? Does the word brand as a corporate symbol come from the actual brand, the cattle brands, the marks that were burned into cattle? Huh, maybe. Spurs have been in use for thousands of years, worn by ancient Chinese and Greek horsemen and medieval knights. Wow, did not know they went back that far. Riders wore spurs on the heel of their boots and used them to nudge and direct their horse. Often handcrafted and custom-made for the wearer, spurs develop into a fine art and expression of individuality, much like fashion accessories of today. Of course, there weren't just cowboys, there were cowgirls. Women have always lived and worked on the ranching frontier, but the term cowgirl was a creation of popular culture. First used by William Buffalo Bill Cody in 1891 to promote female performers such as Annie Oakley in his Wild West show. Cowgirl was soon picked up to describe women athletes in early rodeos. I'll be damned. Good old Buffalo Bill Cody, man. I want to be a cowboy. Isn't that a song back in the day? Anyway, if you did want to be a cowboy back in 1885, this is some of the financials you'd have to deal with. And a chuck wagon cook made about $51 a day back then. That's not great. Wow, cooks had to do a lot more than just cooking. A good cook would also look out for the health and well-being of the outfit by settling arguments, cutting hair, and pulling teeth. Yeah, that is a man or a woman of many hats. Well, if you live in Southern California, you certainly know the name Sepulveda. Very famous boulevard that boasts that name. And I did not know, but I'm pretty sure it comes from a man named Jose Santos Sepulveda, who combined two family legacies, horseback riding and government service, to become a member of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Mounted Posse. So cool. The family later became one of the biggest landowners in California, and its members held many important government offices in the early 19th century. Sweet. The Longhorns are descended from cattle brought to America by the Spanish. This breed adapted to the harsh environment of the West and was typically big and skinny with a broad horn span. Vaqueros, the first cowboys. Multiracial Mexican, Spanish, and Native American men, known as vaqueros, were the first cowboys in what is now the American Southwest. They created a legacy of techniques, equipment, and vocabulary that goes back to the 1860s and continues today. Wow. So stirrups were made out of wood back in the day. And more than 100 years separate the two pairs of wooden stirrups that are on display here. That's crazy. Well, I hope this detail is clear, but right there is a Spanish-style spur made in Amozoc, Mexico in 1650. And these are made by metal workers who skillfully blended Spanish, Moorish, Mexican, and Aztec influences. And you can see a jaguar worked into the end of the Y-shaped heel band. So cool. So this is a California-style vaquero saddle made by Main and Winchester of San Francisco in 1850. The piece of leather in the back is called the anquerita, a vestige of Spanish armor to protect the rear of the horse. Wow. So these are examples of rawhide braided wares created by one Luis Ortega, who lived from 1887 to 1995, a master rawhide braider who brought California's vaquero traditions into the 20th century. His great-great-grandfather, Jose Francisco Ortega, arrived with the first Spanish expedition to California in 1769. Wow. And here's a typical saddle of the kind used by Texas cowboys, and it looks like this dates from 1883. Following the American Civil War, a demand for beef in eastern communities created a market for cattle driven north from Texas. Herders of Mexican, African, and Anglo-American heritage began driving thousands of cattle to the railroad towns of Kansas. Well, here it is, the Gamble Firearms Gallery. Yep. The revolver. The western frontier town is commonly portrayed as lawless and violent. Historians continued to debate whether or not this is true, with some arguing that frontier towns were safer than modern cities. Anything like that. Frontier violence, or lack thereof, was due in part to the prevalence of the multi-shot revolver, a criminal deterrent for lawmen, but a tool capable of horrific bloodshed in the hands of outlaws. Indeed. So this beautiful box with a very ornate revolver in it is a presentation Thur conversion of a model 1860 Army revolver and case. Wow, yeah, you've got all the bullets and cleaning tools, it looks like. And I mean, check out the metal detail. Oh, even the carvings in the handle. That is a work of art. And here's another cased presentation of an 1877 Lightning revolver. Another gun I'm not familiar with, but boy, they sure put a lot of work into the aesthetics of these revolvers back in the day. Look at all that carving in the metal. Or etching properly. Well, here's an Army revolver that also comes with some sort of a shoulder stock, converting it into more of a semi-rifle style weapon. Wow. Yeah, I'm telling you, these vintage revolvers are, they really display a lot more artistry, I think, than guns today do. And look at this teeny little pistol in its case with the bullets. Wow. Oh, man. That is great. Again, I have no urge or desire to own a gun, but to have one of these is just kind of a piece of history. Yeah, that's something else. Yeah, there's something about this level of artistry on a weapon that makes it feel a lot more civilized somehow. Wow, the Sharps rifle. The Industrial Revolution changed almost every aspect of American society, including the development of firearms. Better weapons allowed hunters in the West to kill American bison, an extremely dangerous, aggressive, and unpredictable animal, from a safe distance. Yeah. I love this calendar from 1893. Orange extra rifle pattern and a promotional calendar they produced. Look at that. Hey, 1893, that is the year of Roy Disney's birth. Nice. And here's a broadside from 1867 for the Winchester repeating rifle. 2 shots a second. Yeah, if you've ever been up to the Winchester Mystery House in Northern California, you learn a lot of really cool, interesting details about the Winchester Gun Company. And of course, the whole story about why that woman built that home is fascinating beyond belief. Great place to go visit. But here, of course, they display a lot of Winchester rifles. And as they say, the Winchester lever action repeating rifle was one of the most important firearms in the history of the American West. Reliable, easy to operate, and capable of firing several shots in rapid succession. Because of its significance, the Winchester Model 1873 is often called the gun that won the West. Well, of course, you've got Annie Oakley, legend of the West, famous for her participation in Buffalo Bill's Wild West, the elaborate outdoor spectacles that traveled across the United States and Europe in the decades surrounding the turn of the 20th century. Wow, that show employed as many as 500 individuals and performed in more than 130 cities and towns in a given season. And that little object there is a target ball that she would shoot at during the shows. That's so great that one of them still survives. I love this display case of various what look like sheriff and marshal badges. Oh, that is so beautiful. That is cool. And right alongside it, it's a little information panel about Bass Reeves, 1838 to 1910, the first African-American commissioned to serve as a deputy U.S. Marshal west of the Mississippi River. So cool. Over his 30-year career as a lawman, Bass Reeves was widely known as an expert writer, marksman, and master of homemade disguises. The Autry brought more than 3,000 criminals to justice. So amazing. He is believed to be the inspiration for the fictional hero, the Lone Ranger. Sweet. So this exhibit is about violence in the gold rush and kind of focused on the Derringer pistol too, which apparently, was created by a fellow named Henry Derringer, but became so popular that with a lowercase d, Derringer is now kind of a generic term for a small pistol. Amazing. Allen and Thurber, a Massachusetts gun manufacturer, produced inexpensive revolving pistols known as pepper boxes. Various Westerners, from native peoples to fur traders, used these low-caliber, multi-shot firearms, especially between the 1830s and the 1860s, when more accurate and reliable revolvers, including Colts, became accessible. Well, of course, a good edge weapon will definitely get the job done in some cases, and that just is too funny. California toothpick. That's great. Well, here's another famous figure from the American West, James Butler Hickok. 1837 to 1876, earned the nickname Wild Bill from his exploits as an Army Scout, gunfighter, lawman, and gambler. Yeah, look at that. He's the star of a booklet called Wild Bill, the Pistol Deadshot, or Dagger Don's Double. Published in 1882. That's crazy. And of course, that's how poor Wild Bill met his bitter end. Murdered in 1876 while playing cards in Deadwood, South Dakota. Legend has it that he fell holding 2 black 8s and a pair of aces, the dead man's hand. Well, yeah, as multi-shot firearms became prevalent, that did indeed shift the balance of power on the American frontier, as they say. Yeah, Native Americans definitely had the advantage initially. A native warrior armed with a bow could accurately shoot upwards of 10 arrows in the time it took to fire and reload a single-shot gun. Wow. But yeah, the repeating firearms ended that advantage pretty quickly. Again, these fitted cases for various revolvers are kind of intriguing. They kind of remind me a little bit of the vampire killing kits from the Victorian period. And there's just a level of care and display that, I don't know, still exists today. So this is a Gatling gun created by Dr. Richard J. Gatling in hopes that its rapid-fire capability would diminish the number of soldiers needed to fight. And it was produced by Colt's Patent Firearms Manufacturing Company from 1866 to 1911. Amazing. Look at that. It's funny, it kind of looks like an old film camera. But of course, the film reel up on top, that did not hold film. That was a magazine of bullets. It's interesting. Apparently, the Gatling gun was not used that extensively in the Western frontier, but became associated with it because it was used in so many TV shows that popularized the era. And look at this, as a whole little gallery devoted entirely to Colt firearms. Yep. I mean, if certainly you would ask me, name a revolver manufacturer, Colt would be probably the only name that would come to mind. And there he is, Samuel Colt, 1814 to 1862. Well, Colt was the entrepreneur who certainly got the company going, but apparently a man by the name of Elisha King Root was kind of the brilliant mechanic and inventor that was his right-hand man and partner. These two men, the public face of the company and its operations head, made Colt an industrial powerhouse. They contributed significantly to the industrialization of the United States and the extension of industry into the West. So many guns. I wonder how many the Colt company actually manufactured over the course of its history. Millions, I'm guessing. And I love this one down here. It has almost a kind of a steampunk look. Well, this one down here with the presidential seal on it caught my eye, and sure enough, that is the John F. Kennedy presentation gun, created in 1963. And there, number 28, with the bottom of the handle facing outward, that is a gun made for Gerald Ford, apparently. Well, there you go. That is the Rampant Colt, a horse standing on its hind legs, holding a broken spear in its mouth, that evolved from an icon on Samuel Colt's ancestral family crest in England. Wow. Beginning in the 1850s and continuing to the present day, the Rampant Colt became a corporate symbol for the Firearms Company. This remarkable handgun is a Case Python Hunter model revolver. Looks like it has a gun sight on it. Yeah, from 1981. So this display is actually sitting on top of a reproduction of the patent drawing from 1836. And it says that the revolver with a mechanically rotating cylinder had eluded gunsmiths for centuries. This extremely rare revolving flintlock rifle from 1819 became one of the first partly successful models. But in 1831, a then 16-year-old Samuel Colt constructed the first model for a revolver that would rotate on its own. 16! Small revolver was one of the first prototypes he commissioned. So this pistol with a very long barrel is called a blunt line special. And the barrel apparently could range from anywhere from 10 to 16 inches long, and is the most celebrated variation of the Colt single action Army, which I guess is another handgun model. Approximately 30 of the revolvers were produced in 1876, but they proved unwieldy and unsuccessful. I don't know if anybody remembers a movie called City Heat, and it was the only film starring Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds together. It was a long time in the works to bring those two action stars into the same film. And there's a moment where they both withdraw pistols from their vests. And I think Clint Eastwood had one of these blunt line specials. It makes for a very funny joke. Oh, and of course, yeah, Tombstone, one of the greatest westerns of the modern era. And there's Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp holding a blunt line. Well, when it comes to a Wild West legends, some of the best known are those of Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. And yeah, Billy the Kid had a very short, tragic life, but has become quite famous in the years since. Billy the Kid, known as William Henry McCarty and William H. Bonney, was a cowboy who gained notoriety as the result of his participation in an 1878 range war that took place in Lincoln County on the New Mexico Territory. Convicted of murder in 1881, he finally escaped from prison, and Lincoln County Sheriff Pat Garrett finally chased him down and brought his life to an end. Well, heading out into this lovely garden space in the back, I'm just kind of blown away. This museum is really fantastic. And as I say too often, if you're looking for a spot and just come and have a very quiet, serene experience, this is a pretty good place to do it. Look at this waterfall back here. Now, I'm definitely sensing the hand of Walt Disney Imagineering here. This is some very nice placemaking going on. But yeah, regardless who created it, it's pretty great. Welcome to the ancestral home of the Tongva Indians, whose breath is still on the land. Follow in their footsteps, enjoy its beauty, protect it from harm, and help us preserve it for future generations. Nice. California native peoples and California native plants have known each other a long time. Like a close friendship, their relationship is good for both person and plant. Indeed. Well, this is a really neat feature of the garden back here. They have these little interactive cases. Food is medicine, living is medicine, plants are medicine. And I'm curious, itchy feet? Let's find out what's inside here. Ew. But the creosote bush is the solution. Along with its many qualities, or among its many qualities, creosote bush is antifungal. When turned into a powder, you can use it to treat athlete's foot. Excellent. Bad headache. Let's see what we got. Ooh, yeah, that doesn't look so good. But the bark of the willow tree contains a salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin, making it a great treatment for headaches, fevers, and as an anti-inflammatory remedy. Nasty cough. Oh, I love the rib cage. That's great. Well, tea made from verba santa is a well-known treatment for chest congestion. All right, I think that is going to bring this one to a close. So, as always, thank you so much for coming along. And yeah, if you're in Griffith Park and you're looking to enjoy some really fun, interesting, and informative exhibits about the history and culture of the American West, man, this is the place to be. It's so great, so much more extensive than I expected. There's a lot to see here. I did not see all of it, and we'll have to come back for that Imagined West exhibit and see more of the galleries that I did not get to see this time. But there's certainly plenty to see in a 2 to 3 hour visit here, and very inexpensive, free parking, huge bonus in Southern California. Always appreciate that. But yeah, this is a long time coming. Finally got here, and will be returning plenty in the future. So take care, and we will catch you in the next one.